Welcome back. We're talking security this morning. We've got two gentlemen to kickstart. That's Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, who is a security consultant. And then we've got Adam Sabu, is a former Assistant Director, Internal Security with the State Security Service, and also a security and intelligence consultant. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program.
Good morning.
All right. Let me start with you, Captain Sadiq. Given what is out there in the public, perhaps in addition to what you know about how the kidnap, rescue of the over 300 boys in Katsina, the Kankara school, and now there are questions as to what actually happened, those who played roles in ensuring that they are released, because many just think that, who knows, there may lie some of the challenges, if not the solutions, to some of these problems that we have. Could you give us your impression of what you think about this whole scenario as it is playing out now?
Abduction and the subsequently successful rescue of the 300 students in Katsina. In security management, whenever an event happens like this, it is always an occasion. It is a bad thing, but it is also an occasion to draw lessons. If we look at the Katsina abduction right from when the attack started on the Friday around 9 until we successfully had the release of the students, if we want to be fair, we cannot be able to work perfectly. In any case, there is always room for impairment. At the same time, it will be fair. It will not work. So there are things that worked very well. There are things that worked very well. There are things that didn't work out. And like I said, from this, while we emphasize the good work and make sure we do from them, we also look at what so for me, right from when the story broke, I started keeping a timeline. Friday, 9 p.m., when did security, whether it is police or military, when did they arrive the scene? Timeline is very important. We should always improve timeline from one incident to another. Timeline for this is 2 hours. Next time we should be working for 1 hour. Next time we should be working for 30. That's how system improve. Apart from timeline, what was the coordination? In all honesty, in this operation, you see there were many agencies that were involved. There was the military. In the military, there was the army, there was the Air Force, there was the police, there was the state governments, and then also there were the intelligence services or informants within the community who must have, contributed to the success of the operation. The army and the police surrounded the area. By surrounding the area, I think the abductors realized that they were encircled. Even if the army was not able to insert actually where the abductors were, the abductors realized that they could not get out of the enclave without being captured by the military. So that forced the hand of the abductors. To me, that was one of that encirclement is one of the things that made the abductors to change their mind that now it is no longer asking for ransom. It's no longer an issue of carrying out this 100 students out of this place. It is how we can get out in one piece. Secondly, there was Air Force. There was aircraft hovering overhead. Again, the presence of that aircraft going, I flew about 10 hours over there. The presence of that aircraft made also the abductors to realize that we have an eye everywhere we go. So I think this thing combined, despite maybe the slow reaction, the presence of the army and the police on the ground, that's boots on the ground, the eyes in the sky, that's the Air Force aircraft that was hovering over them, made the objective realize that now it's an issue of us getting out. We can no longer carry this. We were helped by one thing also. We were helped by the number of students, carrying 300 students, moving them, feeding them, controlling them. And unlike the Chibok abduction, fortunately, these are boys. The more the boys get desperate, some of them will make a dash for it. So even controlling the boat was a problem. So everything, these are some of the actors that actually, helped us to convince the abductors that they had to release the children. Now, having said that, having looked at the reaction time, having looked at the coordination, we come back, it's not only government and security that is a lesson here. Even the state government, the school authorities, like we see, they have a role to play. When we started, again, unfortunately, just like the Chibok and other, we had problem precisely knowing how many students are in Kankara.
Yeah, Captain Sadiq, let me take it from there, from that point on to Mr. Abu. When you talk about the role of state governments and what they need to do, yes, you did also reference the traditional security agencies, the intelligence community in the country. Mr. Abu, it does appear as though there's a lot more going on than the authorities are coming up with, given the inconsistencies. At least that's the way it seems. Because if the Katsina governor is saying Mieti Allah played a role in help with some negotiation, and then you hear today the police, and then you hear the government saying, look, it is the army who played a key role. So as someone who used to be in internal security, what do you think is going on?
Thank you very much. I think what is going on is the fact that the operation itself by the bandits gave government opportunity to work well and release the students. What do I mean? This guy came up, and from the records of the students, that they were almost 529. I mean, how were they going to manage 529, of their victims in that forest, in that area? And where were they going to take them to? How were they going to feed them? So that gave government a leeway and security agencies about what to do. But let me say this. In security management, there's something we call security convergence. In other words, you use various strategies, policies, programs, operations to achieve your aim. And so when these the security agencies discover this large sum, they discover that these guys cannot successfully take them to any other place than where they were, and they will not just get up. They also have a background information that these are not Boko Haramis who can just waste lives anyhow. These are ones that want to make name, want to make something out of what they have done. So they now went to work. Of course, the involvement of state government, using their own traditional connections through Mieti Allah, is part of the security management strategy. And the various intelligence agencies, the defense forces, key into what is going on. I know that there was a lot of security sharing, and there was confidence among the various actors to release these guys. They worked together seamlessly, and at the end of the day, what they did was there are so many psychological operations that you have to undertake when you are in this kind of situation. They did what they had to do, and the guys will do. And that is why when people say how many people were arrested, where are they, and things like that, those are not things that you begin to review them. After all, there are more operations to be carried out. I think that was what played out.
Are you suggesting that those are not valid questions that people are asking?
It is not because they are not valid questions that people are asking, but at this stage, it is not something that we should begin to reveal. Don't forget that the bad boys, many of them are still in our forests. You have even forgotten that there have been other attempts, on some students, and this made states to shut down some of their schools. So there are some of these things for now that we should hold on. Information will eventually come, but I think it's too early to begin to ask of the nitty-gritty how they came out. The important thing is that, you see, we learned a lot of lessons from the Seabok girls and Dabchi.
No, but Mr. Abu,
didn't follow immediately.
That doesn't appear so to a lot of people, because, I mean, just last week we had residents of Katsina who told us right here on the same platform that you have these bandits, if I told they are really bandits, because there are many questions now. They usually move around. They go to markets with their arms with them. People see them. People know them. So how are people not supposed to think that these guys are getting a pat on the back?
You see, but the problem, you see, I have said this, I think, in my previous appearance, that you discover that the nation, we as a country, and our national security agencies are overwhelmed by the current security challenges. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I read too from a journalist from Katsina who said sometimes, I think, is it this year, he went into their camp where he saw over 1,000 of these bandits with AK-47, and they even have he talked with them and talked with even the community leaders. So they are. And don't forget that even most of the security challenges that is facing this country today are not even reported. So that is the enormosity of how enormous the challenges are. And therefore, the idea that they are seeing them, they are not doing anything, how many forces are on ground there that can pick on them? And when it's just like these boys, if not because of the situation was adequately managed and the boys were released, if they begin to do something nasty, I mean, you can see where the country would have been. I think it's not that we don't know them any longer. Even in the various kidnappings that goes on in various communities in Nigeria, the local people know them. They know some of them. They know some of their informants. And they are overwhelmed that how many policemen will be in one place at the same time. This is the challenge that we have. Let us not run away from these facts.
Captain Shehu, I don't know if you would like, I would like you to please, try to venture into that one. I was going to take you up on something you said earlier, but perhaps we can find a way to merge the two. On the one hand, just as you have heard, we had a resident of Katsina, last week, who was telling us pointedly that these bandits move around their environments with guns slung around their shoulders, and they go to the markets, and no one stops them. Now, it isn't something, in other words, that information you can literally pick on the street. It's not something hidden. You don't need special intelligence for that. How is that possible, given that, it is because of these kinds of things that the president had often been complaining about, small arms, firearms littered all over the place? How is that possible without us being able to mop these ones up that we see on the streets?
Well, first, let me align myself with the opinion of the person I'm sharing the platform with. We have to accept that in terms of security challenges we are facing, in terms of the size of Nigeria's expanse of land, in the size of ungoverned spaces, big forests we have in many parts of the country, we do not have enough security personnel to man these places effectively. And we are hampered also by another aspect. We are not technologically advanced countries. In some countries where the technology is advanced, you can leverage technology even where you don't have personnel. We should not deceive ourselves. We're not an advanced technologically country. So we don't have enough personnel on the ground to cover these areas. That is the truth. You spoke about the proliferation of small arms. Definitely it's one of the problems, because it is the possession of an arm that makes a bandit think he can take on either the police or the military. How did we get here? We actually toyed with the idea of this small arms and light weapons for a long time. It will shock you to find, despite the fact that Nigeria is the leading voice in ECOWAS, ECOWAS has passed a convention for many years now where it said all countries should have a commission for the clearance of small arms and light weapons. Until recently, I think only Nigeria and Gambia out of the 15 ECOWAS countries that do not have such a commission. Having such a commission does many things. The clearance of small arms and light weapons is an international venture. When you have a commission, it can interface with other commissions, and it is a border problem. It's something that moves from here to here. So we have been dragging. I think it's just now that we're having a second region of having that commission. But even then again, for efficiency, please, I would advise that in setting up a commission, it should take the structure, the tenure of what's happening in other countries. A decision has been made, I don't know how far, to place this small arms and light weapons under the office of the NSA. In my humble opinion, I think the office of the NSA is already overcharged with the responsibilities. That commission, if we want it to work, if we want it to interface with other commissions that are available in all other countries, it should be an independent commission. We should move quickly to make sure that we mop up this small arms. The line behind of Nigeria in the ECOWAS is even more shocking. Why you find 75% of the arms we're talking about in West Africa, they are in Nigeria. We should be, but we are not. So
what kind of effort, Captain, my apologies, what kind of effort should we be making to mop up these arms? Now, don't also forget that the word on the streets that everyone has been talking about is the fact that these things began to happen as a result, as an aftermath or after effect of the fall of, the late Libyan leader. I mean, people talk about that all the time. And the former president, Obasanjo, also warned that should that happen, these are the kinds of things that will happen. So we knew that there was a likelihood that these things would happen. We weren't able to get ahead of it clearly. This is where we are now. Unless something critical is done, we are just sitting on another, keg of gunpowder, so to speak. These things are already proliferated, especially, from all indications, from all the conversations we have heard, in the north. And it's not to say that it doesn't exist in the south as well. So what should be done? We have been talking about mopping these arms up. How? What should be done? Especially since we can see some on the streets and we allow them to still go away from the marketplace to wherever they came from. So how do we address this?
So mopping up small arms all over the countries is an international venture. How is it done? First, the government should come out with a plan. The first thing you do is to grant a moratorium. That is, give a time limit that anybody that has illegal firearm should surrender it in a certain time. You might even put incentives, because as a person was gone, you want to replace the money he used as in others. So after that moratorium has escaped, it has elapsed. After you have paid those ones that surrendered voluntarily, now you move in your security, your intelligence in particular, to move within the communities and obtain information of people that are still having these arms. When you get these arms, you also destroy them. As you are doing that concurrently, we check our borders. Yes, people talk of Libya, people talk of arms coming. It is true. You also check you empower the custom, you empower the police, you empower the military, you empower even the immigration that are on the border to look out for arms that are coming. There are arms that the Nigerian custom has been catching that are even coming to be secured, maritime. That also should be, taken to a higher stage. Apart from that, people talk of Libya. The whole of Libya certainly contributed to the development of arms. But I remember I was invited to a security seminar organized by the last assembly, 57 or the 8th. They did a security seminar where I remember former DSS boss, that is Lawal Daura. Apart from the fact that arms come from Libya, we have that a large proportion of the arms escape from government armories, police, military. That is a fact. And what does that tell you? It means our armory management system in Nigeria is also weak. There should be training. There should be, security measures. There is this international mine action standard. It has how even armory should be guarded, how armory should be built. Daura was very, very clear that despite the fact that we are saying Libya is part of it. But again, a large proportion of the arms are taken from government armories. Whether it is arms themselves, whether it is ammunition, we can just continue blaming Libya. There is also leakages happening with it. So
well, Captain Sadiq,
agencies
again,
must put in place that will safeguard their own
Permit me to build on that point and move on to Mr. Abu. If there were to be a protest planned by any group whatsoever, intelligence will pick it. And then they will swoop on the people, wherever you are. If any group, other group tries anything in different parts of the country, they will swoop on them. But you've seen people who have marched, they say 344 students, they say they marched them to the bush and then they were rescued. Again, now 80 Islamic school students were abducted and then they were rescued. How do we convince people that these so-called bandits don't have state backing?
Thank you very much. I want to say I'll come back to comment a bit about this arms reduction thing. But for your direct question, there is no doubt about the fact that virtually everybody in the areas that they are tormenting, these bandits are tormenting, especially people in government, they know the individuals, some of their key leaders that are involved in this negative attitude. There's no doubt about that. But the only thing I want to say is that they have grown out of a bigger proportion that they themselves are frightened. They are afraid of them, just like the Boko Haram, the way they started, and those that brought them are afraid of them. So I want to say that it is something that it is not because they did not know, but like my colleague said, they are overwhelmed, heavily overwhelmed by the security, by the operations that are going on simultaneously all over the country. I want to say that, but it is not too late for us to do something, and I'll get there. But let me say this, in the area of arms reduction, the time we are supposed to do this arms reduction has long passed. You remember, the funny thing is that this country, people don't even learn lesson. You will see a state government who will get up and say, I am declaring amnesty for illegal arms in my state. How can you do that in your state if the other states are silent? This is supposed to be, like my colleague said, a national security operation. National security operation that we are supposed to do a good study, backed up by technology and resources for national security agencies, give them moratorium, give them time that everybody, during this period of moratorium, the national security agencies you have empowered will be able to study where are the arms stored. They will have credible intelligence during this period, and thereafter the operation begins. After which, anybody that does not come, they know where they are and they can move on them. But this is not something that you can do over a period of 6 months, 3 months, like some states who get up and say, in 1 month, come and bring out all the arms that are with you. It is not done anywhere in the world. We don't do enough planning. But let me go to the area that we have always neglected and we continue to neglect. What is the level of technology, like my colleague said, in monitoring our porous border? Yes, we have been talking of Libya. Why are we only be concerned? Only about Libya. How about those ones that are coming through the sea? The pirates. Those guys that are stealing fuel and selling them also to these international oil thieves. They exchange for arms also. How are we going to control that aspect? Those are things that it should be holistic. And we are not looking at it. We are always cosmetic in our approach to this arms reduction. And that is why it has not worked. And that is why it has expanded so much that we are finding it difficult to control. But like he said, arms control is a very scientific, a very tedious job, and it's not something that you add again to the office of the National Security Advisor. Let there be a national commission. The National Commission on Light Arms that they are talking about, how effective has it been?
Now, looking at how all of these are playing out, there's several questions that have been asked as to who did what and how did they ensure this don't happen again. So many holes that have not been plugged here. Give us your impression. Do you actually think that, look, all of this went on, the boys were rescued, no ransom was paid, no backing from any quarters whatsoever, it was all organic?
Well, thank you very much for having me on this morning again. And I'm as concerned and worried as every other Nigerian. The fact remains that the way and manner government business is done in our climb leaves a lot of people asking more questions each time something happens. I do not think we will get the total picture of what has happened. We might get ideas from different places, and it's not been in our culture to have the government come out and give us one clear picture. Sometimes because information are still being processed, investigations are still on. They do not want to give too much at a time. They give because people are demanding for a response and all that. Having said that about the government, it's unfortunate that situations like this expose the weakness in the collaboration between the different agencies that manage Nigeria and issues that concern us.
One thing Captain Shehu said earlier, and I'd like you to speak to it if you can, he talked about the about how critical the timeline of any crime or criminality is. And when he talked about that, like, when did it happen? What happened after that? Just pretty much map out the timeline and all of that. But as he spoke, something came to my mind that probably wouldn't be on the timeline, and that is the use of intelligence before the event itself. Looking at that, as I said over and over again, I don't believe it is possible for anything to happen without intelligence being aware of it and dissipating the information accordingly to wherever. If intelligence was as effective as it ought to be, would you say that given the Kankara abduction and that of the Islamia that did or almost happened or didn't happen, would you say that intelligence gathering has been effective?
Well, like I said earlier, we need to collaborate more. Effectiveness is, when you use the word effectiveness, a lot of things comes to mind. The process needs to be reviewed. And then the capacity of the intelligence establishments needs also to be assessed. You see, one cannot, in fairness to every establishment involved in managing these crises, one must take an inside look at some of the challenges these establishments are facing in delivering on their jobs. I think on several occasions on this program, we've talked about building our capacity, increasing the capacity of these organizations to deliver on their jobs. First of all, we need to look at in terms of building capacity, the manpower of these organizations. Some of them are challenged by their manpower. So I feel that collaboration is the way to go, but they must have the capacity. They can't perform magic. They are going to work with the tools they have. So we need to look at our security infrastructure. We need to take a review of the quality of people and our process of engagements. These are critical areas that our nation should begin to think. And I would really crave the indulgence of stakeholders in this field to please, let's take a humble pie. I think it's time we begin to ask who can make input, who can contribute to what, who can we trust? Because this is about the destiny of our nation. A country of over 200 million people, we don't know what is going to happen the next time. It's a big challenge to the intelligence sector. And we need to look at the whole challenge holistically. That's my position. I could sit here and just dish out blames, condemn or say things. But when you are inside, you see that there's more to it than just what we hear on the outside. However, that does not excuse failures in effectively gathering and deploying intelligence. We must ask the various establishments responsible to take responsibility and accept blames when they fail. Failure is human. So the idea that if an operation fails, people don't want to take blames and they look for information, fabricate stories to put out there is more harmful, because there are other bigger institutions beyond Nigeria that knows what happens inside here. They see, they sweep, they clean up, they pick up pieces, and we have the capacity to do that. We have over 2 million Nigerians in the intelligence industry worldwide, and their performance rating is among the best in the world. So I don't see why we should be struggling with some of these situations.
Back to Captain Shehu. Well, one of the things that intelligence operatives have told us over the years is that a lot of the criminality that we see around are as a result of economic inequalities and incapacitations. That is also something that is out there. With the high, number of, poverty cases, unemployment figures, and so many other things like that, it is common knowledge in the intelligence community put out several times on this program as well before now, that we need to scale up the economic, capacity of many Nigerians so that they can be dissuaded or disinterested in going into any form of criminality. Banditry, as you have also talked about, they are for economic gains. What do we need to do about that? I want to take you up on what you talked about concerning the amnesty later, but in terms of using the information we have about economic inequalities, how do we address that to dissuade people from going into criminality?
Specific to your question about unemployment and poverty, certainly is a contributory factor to youths going into crime. So it is the job of government to ensure that there is an inclusive society. We have to agree, in all honesty, in our societies, there are people that are excluded. There is exclusion. There are people who do not feel the impact of government, whether it is in the Northwest, whether it is in the Niger Delta, whether it is even in the Northeast. These have been identified by experts as some of the contributory pull factors. They are so-called pull and push factors. Pull factors like poverty, lack of employment, will make a youth, amenable to being seduced by criminals, terrorists, or other, bad actors within the society. So we have to have a more inclusive society. When I mean by more inclusive society, whether it is scholarship, whether it is employment, it should not be only to the children of the elite. Everybody should be given along in proportion to his capacity. That will reduce the lure of crime. Having said that, please permit me to observe. You have constantly been calling me captain. I am group captain. When you call me captain, you have removed more than 10 years from my service record. So please note that. We will go back to the issue of intelligence you asked. Please permit me to do that. You asked, why didn't the intelligence pick something before the crime? Now, in most cases of abduction or kidnap, especially kidnaps that are done either from a residence or from a school, in most of the cases, there is prior surveillance. Those people that kidnap those children, they didn't just come to Kankara on one day and decide to carry them. They must have surveilled that school, either covertly or overtly. What I mean covertly, a trained guard, even if he's one, will have some things that will show him that somebody is surveilling a crowd. When a vehicle or a passes-by passes several times across looking at your building, it's an indicator for you. So in all honesty, again, schools should train their guards, even if they are not many. They should be trained to observe somebody who is taking an unhealthy interest in either a building or a school. If you have a gate man in your house, your gate man should be able to know. Surveillance always precedes a kidnap or abduction. No kidnapper will just come to a house that he doesn't have any knowledge about the movement and just carry out a kidnapping. He has to move in. Now, secondly, again, this Katsina abduction has shown us the importance of local intelligence. While we were growing up, in all honesty, I remember even in some big hotels, you'll find somebody metaba selling cigarettes. In most cases, these are either DSS or police personnel that are disguising. They pick information. I don't know. I don't claim to know whether the intelligence agencies do this. But in all honesty, when there is an area that is besieged by security like the Northwest, I expect whether it is DSS, whether it is police, whether it is NIA, in fact, almost all the security agencies, they have an intelligence arm. They should be embedded. Any motor park, any market, any cattle market in the Northwest, they should have, if not their own personnel, informants. I will give you an example. Without being indiscreet, on Tuesday, the area where this kidnap happened to me, I have a maternal aunt there. That is around that Zamfara axis. What happened on my own? I called somebody. I said, please, can you just look around and find out what's happening in that area? And lo and behold, this guy called me within 2 hours to say that somebody came to a market in Mutu. Mutu is a village nearby, and he bought half a bag of uli uli. To me, that is an indicator. If somebody is buying half a bag of uli uli, it means he has a large crowd that he wants to feed. And when an informant gives you information, it doesn't mean automatically it is true. I followed up this lead of uli uli, and lo and behold, on the Sunday morning edition of BBC Hausa on the 19th, they were interviewing some of the boys. I was waiting for that question. When they asked one of the boys, what were they feeding you on? The boys said they were feeding them on sweet potato and 3 pieces of kuli. That is groundnut cake. To me, that matched the information I had. This is the point I am making. Having people in the markets, in the cattle, in the mosque, in the churches, wherever people are gathering, you need to have an informant, even if you cannot have enough personnel to cover those areas. Local intelligence, even if we are technologically deep, even the most advanced countries, they still rely on human intelligence. Human intelligence will give you the nitty-gritty. Even if you have a satellite overhead, you need the human intelligence. I want to see we have a multiplicity of intelligence agencies. So many of them overlapping, if you ask me. Too many, if you ask me. In all honesty and also, I know they don't bring out their work. But to me, from what I'm seeing outside, I don't think we're having a return on investment on the intelligence agencies we're having. They should do more. It's not remaining Abuja or the Kankara. You should move to the local area and embed people there to find information.
All right, Group
Bandits
Captain.
are local people.
Yeah.
They have marriage relationships. You will get information from them.
Okay. All right, Group Captain. Let me go to Mr. Abu now on this issue that you have just raised about integrating personnel into the communities. One of the things that we have often heard from some security operatives as well is that people are unwilling to give information to official security agencies. We spoke with, the spokesperson of the Customs Service, who are supposed to ensure that these illegal arms don't even get in the first place. And he was telling us during that interview that people would rather not give them information. They would rather give the information to other people. So the question that raised on my mind was that of trust. We couldn't take him up on that because of the exigency of time. But if you were to speak to that, what would you say about the trust quotient between the people and the security officials, the official security agencies that we have, in terms of how much trust has been built or depleted?
Thank you very much. Let me say this, that when you are talking about the trust of the citizenry to give information to intelligence officers for purposes of security operation, it is something that is not automatic. You know that in any nation, I want you to look at advanced countries where criminal activities are low. Research has indicated that countries that has low unemployment rate or that has full, to some extent, employment, countries that has the nationalities are patriotic, such countries have adequate information from their citizenry concerning security threats. But how would they do that? They do that because the country gives them justice, they have trust in their leaders are people of integrity. It's unlike in our own country where political leaders are more interested in what they will go home with at the end of their tenure. And they don't even take sometimes they don't take the security intelligence seriously. But let me say this. I was in service when Metesine ravaged part of Nigeria and the northern Nigeria at that time. And we effectively, like Group Captain said, infiltrated that organization. We were able to, even when there was no technology, we had adequate intelligence. And as you know, that organization did not last long. Yes, their arms were not sophisticated, but they were also as deadly as the present bandits and the terrorists that we have. I think what we should do is, this time around, let us go down to the basic. What do I mean? Let there be security awareness seminar. Security awareness, trainings for non-actors, particularly the traditional rulers, youth leaders, people that you think are useful in their own immediate community, who should be able to give the kind of intelligence, the kind of information that the Group Captain said about some people that went to buy kuli and the rest. There are people there that can, but not very many. It was because he came there, he has the knowledge and decided to send people send somebody and put people there to monitor. I give you a typical example. I've been monitoring some routes for the past few days, and I discovered that because of the present security situation, people are not traveling for this yellow tide period. They're afraid of being kidnapped, they're afraid of being robbed and things like that. So we need a lot of awareness seminars for all the non-actors who should be able to see reason to cooperate with national security agencies.
Okay, well, let me also ask Mr. Ononugbo about, something that also came in the news last week, and that's the allegation through a notice put up by the APC that a governor should be asked questions about the insecurity in that particular area. And it just raised a question on my mind as well. As you security operatives tell us, all crime is local. So all intelligence should be local. And that's talking about the local levels, the local governments, the state governments, and all of that. We seem to ignore the role, the responsibility of state governments in all of this security conundrum that we're talking about, especially when we hear that, the primary responsibility is on government, and government has all the security apparatus of state. The federal government has all of the security apparatus of state. But the Constitution does not excuse the governors from performing the job of securing people. What should be their role, even given all of the challenges that they may be facing?
Well, I think the governors should serve as bridge builders. They should be able to provide a synergy between the agencies working within their territories. Most often, this doesn't seem to be the case. Also, I feel that probably after most of these guys get elected, they should be sat down and put through what we call security briefings. They should be taught security protocols, and they should be helped probably to understand that primary among their duties is the safety of the people and their properties. There's so much investment that goes into the media on so many other things, but not as much happens when it comes to securing the people and also ensuring safety of their lives and properties. That is not to say they are not doing anything. I've often seen them display donations of vehicles and all that. But I think some state governments should look inwards. There are peculiar security situations across the states. What obtains in Plateau State might not be exactly what is happening in Gombe or in Enugu or in Abia. So we should have that kind of scenario playing out. When I'm talking about synergy, we're also going to look at their ensuring that resources, relevant and necessary equipment are provided. They have security votes, for crying out loud. What do they do with this money? I recall the last time we discussed, Mr. Abu was mentioning about these security votes and several other speakers on this platform. What do they do with the security votes? They should be made to account for this money. And if they begin to see these needs, I believe that any honest leader would want to invest into the security of lives and properties within their domain. So the governors and the government should please get closer. Also try to learn. Because the fact that you are a governor does not make you a security man. You may be the chief security officer of the state, but you need to depend on people who have been trained, seasoned, exposed, and who have seen it through experiences of operation, how to deal with security matters, including your appointees. Some of their lifestyles encourage crime. Now, I was also going to point out that we don't become criminals. We were born with about 20% elements of crime in our DNA. But environment and situations and circumstances nurtures and causes these things to either manifest or to be temporarily or permanently brought under severe control. So we have a disconnect between the political leaders and the establishments. And if this is addressed I don't know if they listen to the sunrise programs like this, but if they do and they reach out, they should be able to get people who can provide some sort of support and help for them to achieve effective security infrastructures within their states. And that will help the security of the entire country. Because if we're talking about Nigeria, we're talking of states, we're talking of local governments, we're talking of communities. In fact, I had proposed at one of these platforms that some of our policemen and DSS should be posted to their villages, to their communities. You
All right,
know,
Mr.
in my
Nonugo.
village, we know everybody.
Okay, on a lighter note, I'm sure many would have picked up on that DNA component of your response. Say, okay, well, we'll have to go back and check that and see where lies this 20%. How did he come up with that? But let me bring in Group Captain Sadiq on this. Pardon me. You know, time was when it was so much out there when they said, well, these people are not Nigerians. These people came from different countries and this and that. And we never really saw people arrested as a result of that. But can you place a finger on it? Who are those people? What do they want? Are they really bandits, as they want us to believe?
Well, okay, there is this debate, which to me has now fallen into insignificance, because luckily we've had our children back. However, maybe for lessons learned and for how to tackle the problem, we need to know who are these people that did this Kankara kidnap. In my own opinion, this is my personal opinion. Yes, there was a relief after a few days from Shikau's, faction of Boko Haram, that they are the one who carried out, including the normal trademark of releasing a video. However, looking at the modus operandi of this group, looking at, I don't want to divulge, but you can see some kind of amateurishness in the operation of these bandits. I don't want to believe that this group is Boko Haram. It is not Boko Haram. But what I believe happened is that Boko Haram, like your typical, terrorist organization, revels in publicity. They want publicity, and the more bad the publicity shows them, the better for them. Because if you follow the timeline again, timeline is very important. When these bandits took the students, I think for 2-3 days, there was no communication to say it is either this group or that, nobody that. Within that period, it is my opinion that Boko Haram reached out to them, that please allow us to claim this abduction as ours. Now, what is the benefit? The benefit for Boko Haram is increased infamy or negative publicity for them, public publicity. And for the bandits, the local bandits, it also strengthens their hand in negotiating with government or the parents of this peacekeeper. Because in all honesty, I was actually alarmed when I had Boko Haram, because I said we have a very big fight. If it is in terms of paying ransom, somebody is more likely to pay ransom quickly to Boko Haram than he would to bandits. So there was a two-way, a symbiosis relationship. If you allow us to claim, it will give the abduction higher profile.
Let me just jump in and ask you directly. Do you think ransom was paid in this regard, in this case?
I don't think so. Again, for the simple reason, in this particular case, like I said, it is very possible, and I think that's what happened. The initial motive for this abduction is ransom. But luckily for us, we have the number, which is 300, which hindered the movement of these people. And it enabled our forces and the air surveillance over the ground to track the general area where they are. Now, on realizing that they are surrounded and they could not make good their escape, coupled with the fact that, they have to try as much as possible with their means to keep these students alive and healthy. Because in normal hostage situation, once there is a belief that they have started harming these children or children are dying, I can assure you military forces will storm that place. Because that time there's no longer fear about the safety of the children. You will have to storm the place. So
all
they
right,
wanted to assure that. So that they have been encircled. What they wanted was a negotiation that will give them a safe passage out while they release the children. And I think that's why the negotiation came. It is
okay,
not ransom. And let me say,
I'm afraid you are out of time.
We don't negotiate with terrorists or kidnappers.
Okay, pardon me, but we had to anchor the segment at that point. Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, Adams Abu, and Alfred Ononugo. Gentlemen, thank you all for your time this morning.